Okay, go ahead.
Okay, take two. Now, I don't know whether the beginning of the program was heard. Was it, Ron? Were we on in the beginning?
The beginning was hurt.
Okay, so let me just repeat a little bit. Caller called me on the air today and want to know why I don't feel that the recession has hurt me. Because I've managed to read about how capitalism works in my youth, very concerned and interested in how money works, how our economic system works, and apparently all my life the world goes this way and Irving goes that way. And I do have the pleasure of meeting people over the years that have listened to me, not taking my advice because I don't give advice, but they ask me what I do, and I say that's what I do and that's what I'm comfortable with. Apparently, what I've done puts me in a position that this whole mess with the economy, losing jobs and mortgages and defaults, does not affect me in any way, shape, or form. I've given you a list over the years on my program of books that I don't want you to read, because if you read them over the years, and I've given that list of about 12 books, you probably wouldn't be in the position you're in if you're in one of those positions, and a lot of folks wouldn't be in the position they're in. The information has always been out there: how to protect yourself, how to protect your investment, how to make money, how to save money, when to buy, when to sell. And at a discussion I had at lunchtime today, people said, well, I said, well, what did you do when things were good? Oh, I bought a new car, and then we bought the home down the shore, and I leased a car for my wife that was $600 a month. And I said, well, why do it? Why did you do that when things were good? Well, what do you mean? I said, well, you never buy when things are high. You buy now. When you accumulated the assets while you were making the big bucks, and you put that in an area that when the bust came and we all knew that this real estate bubble was going to break, people were maxing out on their credit cards, the consumer debt was running into the billions of dollars on credit cards, was not the time to buy. Now is the time to buy if you had read the books that I told you not to read. And so there are people now that I run into that are in a very solid financial position and doing the things that I do. Now is the time to buy. Now is the time. Not you. Don't pay attention to me. This is what I do. And when you have cash, when you have assets, you're the king in making a deal. And at a luncheon yesterday, some family members asked me about the economy. I said, I do not speak about anything to the family. We're here to have a luncheon. We're here to talk about family. We're here to talk about how the health of everyone is, but don't ask me any questions. Fact of the matter is, I've been approached for public speaking. I don't do that any longer. The one restriction I have is you must have 30 people, and my fee is $1,000 cash. And if you want to hear the bloviators criticize everything that's happened in the past and take the blame, and you're very impressed with these folks, fine, go give them money, let them speak. But you're not going to learn anything from them, because they were the guys that bought when things were good. You never hear them talk about buying things now when things are bad. So let's go into some areas. Incidentally, we do have a telephone number here that you can call, and I insist that there be no hypothetical questions. No, what if we did this? What if we did that? What if? I'm interested in the future from now on. No hypothetical questions, please, on the chat room or on the telephone. And if you have a legitimate conspiracy, I'm willing to listen to it with reservations. For example, and I pick on people who think they're smarter than the rest of the world. This idiot Limbaugh today, and I don't say listen to him, don't listen to him, do whatever you want to, whatever turns you on or floats your boat is all right with me, actually said that the swine flu pandemic or possible epidemic is a conspiracy by the Obama administration to take your mind away from the first 100 days. That there's only 20 or 30 people in America that's affected with it. More people died in an automobile accident. This is a scare tactic put forth by the Obama administration, having the Secretary of the Human fact of Homeland Security. She was on television at a press conference, and that was a smokescreen. That's so that the president doesn't have to answer questions about the economy. And this idiot went on and on and on and on. So if you listen to the bloviator, like Limbaugh, like Mike Gallagher, the other guys, don't worry about a thing. Go to Mexico, go to Cancun, if you have a cold, take an aspirin, you'll feel better. But did any of them really explain exactly what is unique about this swine flu? And the swine flu doesn't mean anything if you don't get it. Staph infection in hospitals don't mean anything unless you get it. MERS, which is another virus that you can get in a hospital, don't mean anything unless you get it. And the potential and possibility is always there. We move over 50 million people a year around the globe. A lot of countries do not insist on vaccinations, do not insist on inoculations, do not give out flu shots, and they're intermingled with societies like ours that has flu shots, pneumonia shots, inoculations, vaccinations, and we sit next to them on a plane. We're in the same plane. Many of you folks do not know how an airplane recirculates its air. Does it recirculate the same air? And if the filters in the circulating system in a commercial airplane isn't maintained properly, you're going to breathe the same virus that the guy may have next to you. Well, the bloviators don't explain that to you folks. And that's why it's important. Question everything that these people say. And it's frustrating to me to continually hear this nonsense. And these guys are making millions of dollars poo-pooing global warming, poo-pooing alternative energy, poo-pooing swine flu, the possibility of infection, how it spreads. And so you, the public, suffers from it. And it just boggles my mind how people can get so wrapped up in giving these guys an opportunity to spout off utter, silly nonsense. And I'll get into something that I'm proud that I broke last week on this program, and it was supported by an article that appeared in the Philadelphia Inquirer on Saturday. Another thing that they're poo-pooing is the tremendous amount of airplanes, 17,000 last year alone, that were struck by birds. They build airports in areas near dump sites. Well, dump sites are the feeding ground for birds. If you go to Philadelphia International Airport, you go into the Eastwick area, there are dump sites down there. Northeast Airport, there's a dump site in Tullytown. That's in the landing pattern of Philadelphia International Airport, Northeast Airport. And it's because of NIMBY. We don't want a dump site in our area. We don't want an airport in our area. And so they build airports near dump sites and put dump sites near airports. Ergo, the birds are there and they feed. And with the amount of food that we throw out every year, last year we threw out 513 million tons of waste in landfills. Well, birds love that. that piece of toast that you threw out in the trash, that half-eaten chicken, that piece of meat, the spaghetti, whatever you throw out, these birds are bottom feeders. They'll eat anything. And so they live near the airports. And they've tried everything under the sun, shooting off shotguns and explosives and firecrackers. They don't say that maybe we should spray those landfills and kill the living organisms that are created by garbage that is put there. If there's no food available to those birds, they definitely won't be there to eat. Now, doesn't that make common sense, ladies and gentlemen? If you don't feed the beast will die. And so if you don't put food for the birds to eat near the airport, they won't go there. Spray that area with chemicals that will destroy whatever living organism is there in the garbage or in the landfill. They do it in France. They do it in England. But no, common sense does not prevail in America, and it does not prevail in the American people. So the solution to the problem of planes flying into birds at airports can be eliminated by common sense. And people like me who talk common sense are just not on radio or television. And I can prove it. The other thing is, and one of the bloviators, well, all of a sudden we've had planes flying in the air for years. And we have had planes flying in the air for years. But propeller-driven aircraft do not have the same problem to the extent the jet aircraft has. You must remember that a jet engine sucks in tons of air to get the propulsion that is needed. A propeller-driven aircraft doesn't need anywhere near the air because they adjust the prop pitch to grab more and more air, which reduces the amount of air that is sucked in. And birds can then get out of the stream of a propeller-driven aircraft. But these nutcases on television, on radio, are not going to explain it to you. It is unbelievable, the ignorance of these folks. One of the big discussions on Sunday night television was the high cost of going to a sports event. And folks are complaining, well, it's $6 for a hot dog and $9 for a bottle of beer, $300 for the bleachers at the new Yankee Stadium in New York. And they're crying. And the simple answer is, don't go. Why would anybody pay $300 for a ticket when they can sit in the comfort of their living room with a gorgeous flat screen television set close to the toilet in case you have to pee or poop? Your refrigerator is right there. You can get a hot dog for what, 89 cents a pound? Make your own hot dogs and sauerkraut. Be air conditioned and don't have to worry about some nut and back if you're coughing with the swine flu. And yet these people are boo-hooing.
And no lines in the bathroom.
And there's no line in the bathroom. And your bathroom is clean depending on yourself. Not to walk into a urine stunk men's room or a unisex. But I don't get it. Maybe one of you folks out there can explain to me what this big thing is to attend a sports event that you have to pay for. And yet no one in this discussion last night brought up the fact that it's not the salary of the players, but the owner of the Eagles became a billionaire. Jeff, and I'm not knocking billionaires. I'm merely pointing out the players are not going to be billionaires. But the owner of the Eagles listed this year as one of America's billionaires. Now, he must have made a profit by giving some of those Eagles players a lot of money, right? So it just boggles my mind, ladies and gentlemen, how this silly nonsense is discussed by so-called human beings, an educated America that has libraries, have everything, and yet they are so damn ignorant. Now let me make the point once again. Ignorance is not stupidity. If a person is stupid, they're stupid, there's nothing you can do about it. Because even if they read something or were educated, they're dumb. They're stupid. Person is ignorant because they don't want to learn, or they think they know it all. What you hear on the air today is know-it-alls. They know everything the administration is doing is wrong. They know the administration is wrong when Bush was president. They knew the administration was wrong when Clinton was president. They know everything. But there's always another factor that comes from not wanting to be ignorant. And if you were on, I watched the movie Titanic, which is a simple example. The boat was going down, and a lot of people died. I think 1,200 people died. But many of them knew why the boat went down. Didn't help them save them, but they know why the boat went down. Those that were saved knew why the boat went down. But there were many boobies on that boat that had no idea the structure of that boat, how many lifeboats were there, including the captain of the boat. Didn't know anything about how to save yourself. Lived on the impression that this is an unsinkable vessel. And that's what we've got in America today. People who think they're unsinkable. And so they lose their houses. They cry because their businesses are falling apart. They have no idea how capitalism works, that there's always winners and losers. And so it boggles my mind. To the chat room we go. Irv, there was a government program back in the 1920s and 30s called Parity for the Farmers. The banks paid the farmers for their work, then it was taken away, and the farmers lost their land. Have you heard anything about this before? Thanks. Yes, I'm totally familiar with the program. And there was 2 movies made about it. And what the farmers did, with a lot of credit, bought equipment, combines, thrashers, you name it, built silos, built big things on the anticipation. They were not only subsidized by the government, but they were subsidized by the banks. But it's not paid the farmers for their work. They paid the farmers not to grow. That was to keep the price of farm goods high. Then the farm co-ops came in, where the farmer didn't plant to sell or raise beef to sell to the market. They sold to the combine, a group of brokers, food brokers. They bought the cows, they bought the steers, they bought the chickens, they bought the eggs, they bought the fruit and produce. They then sold it on the market. And it was necessary because the farmers weren't making enough money for the land that they had purchased. And so the government said, we'll subsidize you not to grow, to maintain a shortage of food so you'll be able to make a living in spite of the farmers cooperative. Irv, what are your thoughts of unmanned aircraft's practical usefulness that they're using in the war efforts overseas? Have we researched that issue? We're talking about the Predator and the drone. The reason that war is acceptable today is that there is no face-to-face combat when it comes to flying. War is now, and has been since the end of World War II, a technological miracle. The average fighter plane today carries more firepower and destructive power than a whole squadron of B-24s or B-17s did during World War II. And with the technology that's available, they can use these predators and these drones to do the work that humans used to do. And you very seldom see the damage that you create by flying a predator. There are some people who fly aircraft, fighter pilots, bomber pilots, who do have a conscience, realizing that when they drop their bombs from 20,000, 30,000 feet, they kill innocent people and babies. And they have a moral conscience that disturbs them, but they never see the damage they do on the ground. They never see that damage unless they get shot down. Then they see the damage. Now, what we've got with these unmanned aircraft is a technological war that can kill people, destroy cities, deliver nuclear weapons, and never place the individuals at any risk whatsoever. As I said before, what's frustrating about Iraq, Afghanistan, and Pakistan, which we will be fighting shortly, is that our troops have to be on the ground and face the enemy. But think of the airplane that flies and drops them up. They never see the enemy. And so the more technologically we become knowledgeable in, the more destructive war will be and the more inhumane it will be. Push a button, kill 5,000 people. Now just think how difficult it would have been. And there are those people who believe in a conspiracy that the aircraft that hit the World Trade Center had no pilot on it. That the computers on those 5 aircraft were preset at the time of takeoff and were controlled by an electronic satellite somewhere where the pilot could not overcome the computer GPS that was built into that aircraft that set the destination of those aircraft. That's the danger of predators, of unmanned aircraft, and the future of the wars against human beings. There are tanks that now have destructive power, but no crew. They're all controlled by remote control. Missiles are controlled by remote control. Heat-seeking missiles. You don't have to control the missile. You design it so it follows the heat trail of an aircraft and it flies right up their jet engine and blows them up. So war is not the combat that it used to be, man-to-man, face-to-face. It is a technological war in which we can kill people now. I'm talking about the world, where you can kill people with viruses, kill them with anthrax, kill them with poison gas, kill them with nerve gas. 47% of the scientists in the world today are working in chemical and biological laboratories on how to kill human beings without destroying the physical structure of a city. I point that out by saying that Saddam Hussein gassed, 6,000 people? But he never destroyed Iraq. He did it with gas. We went into Iraq, we blew the whole damn country up. We had to rebuild it. So the geniuses of the world who control the military is now saying, should we kill the people or destroy the buildings? That's a moral decision. Is killing people? Now think about this. I know it's difficult because I have a way of asking questions that very few people can answer, including myself. If we declare war on Pakistan, is it more humane to gas those people and kill them with nerve gas, or blow them up with Predator planes, or kill them with bombers. And in the war colleges around the world, they teach, scream, debate, argue. What is more humane? Would you rather be killed if America were attacked by poison gas that will kill you in about 2 minutes, or would you rather be killed by a bomb that will blow up Feasterville or Philadelphia? Ever think about that? Well, this is the problem that they have in the war colleges. What is the humane way to kill people? Blow them up or poison them? Put something in the water? Create a crazy virus like the swine flu virus. There's a combination of the swine flu, the avian flu of birds, and the human virus. It is a 3-component. And the idiot Limbaugh and the rest of them have been screaming about this Obama conspiracy, are not aware of the fact that these viruses are recombinant viruses. That means that virus, if you find a way to attack it, can mutate itself and go right around and kill you anyway, or infect you anyway. I'm sure that some of you listening to this program have heard of the tubercular virus that is available, that there is no cure for this tubercular virus. None whatsoever. It is medically impossible to cure this tubercular virus so far. Viruses are not stupid. Viruses are living organisms, as bacteria are, and they will mutate. They will change direction, change color, change vibrations. They're living organisms, and they're no dummies. So if you come up with a vaccination, they'll come up with something else. You come up with an inoculation, they'll come up with something else. Well, this swine flu virus, and the danger of it is the fear that it may mutate itself and create a whole new virus that we're not familiar with. Now, the president, many people, including myself, say, you can't live in fear all your life. But in my opinion, ignorance is not bliss. But apparently, to many people, including those on radio or television, are blissful because of their ignorance. Our telephone number, 215-253-8877. 215-253-8877. No hypothetical questions, please. Irv, do you have any new info on the situation with the Eagles owing $8 million to the city? The information is in the courts, my dear friend, and it is being adjudicated as we speak. So until there's a court decision that will come down, no one knows what the outcome will be. There are other cases pending in court as to money that is owed to the city of Philadelphia. What boggles my mind is with all of these lawyers that we have in America, that when they draw up contracts between the Eagles, the stadium builders, the construction people, and the city of Philadelphia with their lawyers, they can't draw up a contract that is plain and simple and can be understood by both parties. It boggles my mind. Now, I'm sure Jeffrey Lurie had lawyers coming out of his behind. And I'm sure the city of Philadelphia, I know the city of Philadelphia has lawyers coming out of their wazoo. Just take a look at their financial statement. I think last year, the city of Philadelphia, in addition to 125 district attorneys, spent about $360 million engaging other law firms in the city of Philadelphia. Some law firms, that's their whole income, representing the city of Philadelphia. Now, you can't tell me that with all of these genius lawyers that are around, and God knows they're on television all over the place and doing on talk radio all over the place, that they can't draw up a solid rock contract where there is no question whether the Eagles owe the city of Philadelphia $8 million or not? The same as these boobuses who bought the homes from that TLH builder up in Georgetown or wherever it was, giving the builder $25,000, $30,000. A, they didn't have a lawyer to represent them when they made the agreement of sale. And B, my cousin who was a builder that I had lunch with yesterday, it's against the law to give a builder money. It's against the law for a builder to take it. That is the escrow money. It must go into a separate escrow account. And yet I read in the paper and saw them on television. I gave $25,000. That was our life savings. This type of ignorance, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the reasons that I'm as frustrated as I am. And in private, I don't discuss anything anymore. You can yell and scream about the economy, about Bush being lousy, about Obama being lousy. I've had it. I've had it with the stupidity and the ignorance that is out there. If the tickets are too high for the ball game, don't go. Period. You're not going to be denied it. You've got television to watch it. You've got sports. I was in one bar. It's got 7 television sets in it. 7 big monster television sets. What the hell would you pay $100 for a ticket for? $1,500 a ticket to see? First of all, when you go to a baseball game, you sit here, and third base is over there. And what gets me is when some idiot goes to the ball game with binoculars. What the hell's he got binoculars for? He's sitting so damn far away from home plate or first base or say he can't even see the damn thing unless he's got binoculars with contact lenses. I don't get it. I just don't get it. And that's one of the reasons I have no sympathy for people who are hurting financially in today's market. None whatsoever. I've helped my own family and friends. I'm not going to sit and worry about ignoramuses. Our telephone number, 215. I know that when I ask questions on this program and on my own program, I'm too far out for the average person. I'm just too far out. Common sense has flown out the window in America. And this tragedy of the economy today is an indication of the ignorance of the masses marching like lemmings over the cliff. And why it frightens me is me and those people that I'm familiar with that all have collectively decided that we're going to break away from the system legally are going to be drugged down with the rest of you. And that's frightening. The hypocrisy of there's too much government. The government. I've asked this question for 25 years. What government program would you like to see eliminated? What program? You're a conservative. Government's too big. And I hate to be repetitious, but advertising. Ford has been making automobiles for 200 years and they still advertise. Nobody screamed about the government backing the FDIC with $250,000 of deposits. That's big government. That's big government. Without that big government guaranteeing your deposits in the bank, you wouldn't put a dime in there, would you? But you're against big government, aren't you? Well, you're dead, pal. I don't know what you are, but you are dead. Just a minute, folks. Just killed a critter. Just killed him again. Don't know what it was. Maybe it's the swine flu coming to get me. Let me get into something that really disturbs me. since there's only about 2 people viewing the program tonight, I will do this to satisfy myself. This whole thing of torture, once again, is fair game for the bloviators on radio and television. The release of memos by the CIA about alleged torture that took place in Britain and America and Guantanamo Bay that Obama should not investigate. Even Joe Lieberman, I can't believe him, who I thought had a half a brain. Let's put the past behind us and let's go forward. What happened under the Bush administration happened. We've got to go forward. I don't know whether I showed you or not. 19 pages that I have sitting here on my desk. 19 pages. And the United Nations Charter. That is my second Bible to the Constitution of the United States, which explains our treaty obligation in the UN. I guarantee you that one of the windbag bloviators, lawyers, or anybody else ever read this. Some probably don't even know it exists. Maybe some of you don't know it exists. But this is a obligation that we signed with 154 other nations to adhere to the guidelines of the United Nations. And why am I bringing this up tonight? Because of the ignorance of this issue of torture and why the president may have changed his mind and said to the Attorney General, well, maybe we should investigate it. Why Senator Lay is saying maybe we should investigate it. Why Charlie Rangel is saying maybe we should investigate it. And the bloviators are, what are these people, them damn liberals, why don't they leave it alone, that was in the past. And I am so disgusted with what is going on radio today. And I watched specifically when this question came up yesterday on the Sunday round of programs, Meet the Press, Good Morning America, even my own inside story on Channel 6. I was ready to drive to Channel 6, although the program was taped on Friday, and choke half the panels, choke all the panel. Doesn't anybody read? Doesn't anybody study what this International Criminal Court is? What the United Nations provides other countries to do along with the United States? Well, in Saturday's paper, maybe this will help clear up. If one person's mind is cleared up tonight as a result of this program, I'll feel that I've done my job. In Saturday's Inquirer, it reaffirmed what I said last week about the International Criminal Court. And why? And I will tell you this, against everything that you've heard on the bloviators during the day, and you'll probably hear tonight, why Barack Obama is saving President Bush, Vice President Cheney, Condoleezza Rice, Donald Rumsfeld, the legal department of the United States Justice Department. Barack Obama, if he conducts an investigation into the torture that allegedly took place at Guantanamo Bay, will save George Bush and the other men that I mentioned. And you're going to say to me, Irv, you must be crazy. Obama doesn't like George Bush. I don't know whether he does or not. But if we have an investigation in the United States, well, let me read you the article of why I said that these idiots on television, including some congressmen and senators, have never read the UN Charter, have never read any of the conventions that the United States agreed to, and why, if Obama investigates whether there was torture there or not, he's saving George Bush. Now, I don't know how many of you have the time or ever had the desire to notice that every time Israel gets involved in some type of altercation with Hezbollah or Hamas, they always conduct an investigation as to how many so-called crimes were committed. They investigated the Jenin situation during the Hezbollah attack in Lebanon. They investigated the so-called killing of civilians in the Gaza. And they aired their dirty linen right in public. And then after those investigations were conducted, they presented them to the United Nations for review. And why did they do that? Because of about what I'm going to read to you. The chat room says, Irv, if the bloviators think torturing was in the past and we liberals should leave it alone, what about the last 8 years of them constantly hammering Bill Clinton for a blowjob in the White House? You're right. They beat the hell out of Bill Clinton. The fact of the matter is that investigation into Bill Clinton should have never been conducted while he was the president, because what he did had nothing to do with the administration of the country. But no, the Limbaughs and the bloviators wanted Clinton so bad, they broke their own laws that they established. A president can only be impeached or brought to trial for crimes or misdemeanor while the president pertaining to government business. Getting a blowjob is not critical to America's security. You're absolutely right. And for those of you who don't know what a blowjob is, look it up in Playboy magazine. Let me go on with this article to inform you folks. The United States is obligated by a UN convention to prosecute Bush administration lawyers who allegedly drafted policies that approved the use of harsh interrogation tactics against terrorism suspects, the United Nations top anti-torture envoy said yesterday. The United States is obligated by a UN convention that we signed to prosecute the Bush administration. Earlier this week, President Obama left the door open to prosecuting Bush administration officials who devised the legal authority for gruesome terror suspect interrogations. He had previously absolved CIA officers from prosecution. And then he flipped. Well, maybe somebody read to him the United Nations Charter and the UN Convention that we signed. Manfred Nowak, who serves as the UN Special Rapporteur in Geneva, Switzerland, said the United States is obligated under the UN Convention Against Torture to prosecute Justice Department officials who wrote memos that defined torture in the narrowest way to justify and legitimize it, and who assured CIA officials that their use of questionable tactics was legal. We signed that convention treaty. That's exactly what I call complicity or participation to torture as defined by the convention, Nowak said at a news conference. At that time, every reasonable person would know that waterboarding by definition, for instance, is torture. Nowak, an Austrian law professor, said it was up to the U.S. courts and prosecutors to prove that the memos were written with the intention to incite torture. Up to the U.S. courts and prosecutors to do it by UN convention that we signed and agreed to. Nowak and other experts said that a failure to investigate and prosecute when there was evidence of torture left those responsible vulnerable to prosecutorial action abroad. Which means any of those lawyers, any of the names in the CIA, if they go overseas and they are not investigated by the United States government, they can be prosecuted in any country they go to. Do you get the significance of this? If it should turn out that the United States government and its authorities are not willing to prosecute those where we have enough evidence that they instigated or committed torture, then there is an obligation on all other 145 nations party to the convention to exercise universal jurisdiction. That means countries would have an obligation to arrest the individuals in question if they were on their soil and extradite them to the United States if Washington gave clear assurances that they would bring them to justice. In the absence of such assurances, it would fall upon the respective country to take the individuals to court in their country. Do you get the significance of what this convention is that we sign and are a party to? That every ambassador, every consul general could be arrested by the countries that are signatories to it, namely 145 countries, not because of participation, but because of complicity. The same as if you're driving a car and a guy runs into the bank and shoots the teller. The mere fact that you didn't go into the bank with a gun and shoot him, if you're driving the car, you also get sentenced to death in a murder case. This is a significant document that the United States is obligated to investigate. A federal appeals court yesterday, for a second time, rejected a lawsuit by Guantanamo Bay detainees who said they were tortured and denied religious rights. 4 British men say they were beaten, shackled, and threatened by dogs at the U.S. base in Cuba. The former detainees say the military violated the Religious Freedom and Restoration Act, which states that, quote, government shall not substantially burden a person's exercise of religion. The Court of Appeals in Washington ruled against them earlier last week, saying that because the men were foreigners held outside the United States, they did not fall within the definition of a person protected by the Act. Oh, now we know why they were sent to Guantanamo prison. Now we know why. They sent them to Cuba. The Court of Appeals in Washington ruled against them early last year, saying that because the men were foreigners held outside the United States, they did not fall within the definition of a person protected by the Act. That's why there was no room in any maximum security prison in America to house those detainees. But later in the year, the Supreme Court ruled that the Cuban detainees had some rights under the Constitution, so the High Court instructed the Appeals Court to reconsider the lawsuit after they found out, ladies and gentlemen, that Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, is United States territory granted in a treaty with Cuba in perpetuity. Unless agreed by both parties, Cuba and the United States, that we will close that base. So until Cuba and the United States mutually agree to close Guantanamo Bay, that will be United States territory in perpetuity. And so the court realized that that's United States territory. Yes, sir, but isn't Guantanamo leased property, therefore U.S. soil, very much like an embassy? No, it's not leased. It's our land. We don't pay Cuba for that. The fact of the matter is we hire and employ about 3,000 Cubans to maintain the base, and we buy water from Cuba. So we don't lease that land. We own that land in perpetuity until mutually agreed upon that both Cuba and the United States will relinquish that ground. So now you see, ladies and gentlemen, that unless this administration investigates the possibility of torture, every American in the United States government employee can be arrested for complicity in 100, let me get the right number now, 145 countries. Does anybody have any comment? Is there anyone that has any comment about now learning something that you learned tonight that you didn't hear or you won't hear with the bloviators? Or even the regular media? on Inside Story, where I think that they're supposed to be intelligent people on that panel. George Will and others on the panel with George Stephanopoulos yesterday. Are they that ignorant that they never read the UN Convention against Torture? Or the fact that the indigenous country is responsible to investigate any charge of torture by anyone? And that if the last paragraph is most paramount, if I were a U.S. employee, I would certainly want to know. Countries would have an obligation to arrest the individuals in question if they were on their soil, extradite them to the United States if Washington gave clear assurances they would bring them to justice. In the absence of the United States giving assurance, it would fall upon the respective country to take the individuals to court. That's mind-boggling. Probably one of the reasons that the bloviators don't bring up and inform their public is because of the lack of response that I'm getting here tonight. People just don't give a damn. They would rather live in ignorance, criticize Barack Obama and Eric Holder, the Attorney General of the United States, with the possibility of conducting an investigation, because it eases the savage soul of the bloviators like Limbaugh, who is a leader of misinformation and omission of information. But it's something that at least some of the people in Congress are aware of it. Irv, it seems that treaties like this are conveniently ignored by the mightier party. Look at the Indian treaties we broke. How about what we did to Hawaii? Well, I agree. There's only one problem today with that. If the Indians had a nuclear weapon, I guarantee you that Columbus would be doing Hail Marys right now in heaven. These 100 and some countries that have the power that do business with us are not the Indians, my dear friend, and they're not the Hawaiians. We break treaties and other countries break treaties. But for 8 years that Bush was the President of the United States, he certainly didn't endear us to the rest of the world with his cowboy attitude. So you're right, we do break treaties. We've broken many treaties. Over the years, we've compensated the American Indian, who are not Indians. They were Native Americans. Columbus was an idiot. He thought he found India, so he called them Indians. And we live with that lie. They're Blackfoots, Cherokees, Sioux, Mohawks. Weren't Indians. They were natural-born Americans. And what really disturbs me more than anything else, why are and I hear the bloviators, we're number one, we're the greatest country. Of course we're number one, the greatest country. Back to the Nixon administration, when it first came out, that we were a debtor nation, I said, what the hell does that mean? I'm going back to the 60s, the 70s. What the hell does that mean? That means we owe more money to countries around the world than they owe us. Now we are at the mercy of other countries around the world because we owe trillions of dollars, not from Barack Obama, but from George Bush and his 8 years of ridiculous spending. A war that cost us billions of dollars. Money that never showed up in the budget, but came out of the black book budget, which many of you people are not aware of. And the people that do research for me are now looking into something that I find very interesting. But nobody would give a damn, because you're interested in the Bloviators and Charles Gibson and Katie Couric. That's what you're interested in. You get your news in sound bites. But doesn't it make sense that maybe the Barack Obama stimulus package, the bailout, and the TARP, and this whole economic policy of the Obama administration is not his idea, but the people we owe money to are telling him that, or they will cut off our borrowing capability from those countries. That came to light to me on Saturday with a phone call and conversation to a guy that deals in international currency. He said, Irv, mark my words, this Barack Obama administration stimulus package and concept of finances is not dictated by the American government. It is dictated by the people that we owe money to. As many of you folks have gone beyond your capability of your credit card, the United States' international credit card is exhausted. Either those countries have to wipe off our debt, or they have to issue us more credit. But if you tell the average person that we're a debtor nation, they don't have the faintest idea what the hell you're talking about. Talk about the fact that our credit around the world has reached the point of no return where we can't borrow any money on our credit. We have no way to pay it back. But Boobus America will follow the trend of the bloviators, listen to the talk show hosts around, never do any investigation, yell and scream about, we didn't torture anybody, and if you knew that a guy was going to do something, you would have tortured him. I'm so tired of that garbage. We've got professional interrogators in the police departments that can get your blood without torture. We broke the mafia without torture. We've got 2.5 million people in prison in America, the largest prison population, ladies and gentlemen, in the civilized world, and we didn't torture anybody to get them convicted. So you're going to tell me that these bloviators, whatever means is necessary to get information, let's use. Use the information that's productive. Get the professional police departments, the professional FBI agents, the professional interrogators. Question on our chat room. Irv, how will we be able to afford a third war with Pakistan with no more credit? It's an excellent question. The allies like India, who do not like Pakistan, will probably loan us the money to build up our armed forces. One of the things that occurred many years ago on Inside Story, I've been on there for 19 years. You have to remember that you don't need a big military anymore, comparable to what we used to have, a 2 or 3 million man army. Our kill ratio today, with the weapons that our troops have available, one soldier today can kill more people with the weapons that he carries than a whole company of men did in Korea or Vietnam. Our kill ratio today is unbelievable. So we would get India probably to back us if we needed weapon systems. And the other thing is, my dear friend, the rest of the world will loan us all the weapons we need to kill Americans. They loan money to both sides. They will give money and weapons to Pakistan, and they'll get weapons to us, and the winner will pay them back for both. There's always money for war. Because money for war must be backed with hard currency. There's no credit cards for war. I'm Irv Homer. I hope you enjoyed tonight's program. I hope you were informed a little bit. And I hope you would ask more questions and respond to the things that I bring forth on this program. Without your input coming back on email at evilirv@irvhomer.com, I don't know whether I'm wasting my time here or not.
Well, 36.
But if there's one person who learned something tonight, this program will not spread like the swine flu virus. It should, but it won't. It should, but it won't. So it's up to you. I don't ask for money. I don't ask you to buy any products. I just want to see this program grow. I want to see more questions on the chat room. And I want to see more responses on the telephones. That's all I ask. I don't ask you to buy mattresses, automobiles, investment things. I don't ask you for anything. This is totally, completely free. Because I think it's vital that if I croak, my children, my family, my loved ones will know that I gave it the best shot while I was alive. I'm Irv Homer. Good night for now.